Do you struggle with work-life balance in the Western industry because you love your job so much? Or have you thought a lot about the application and interview process and could use some advice? Or maybe need some help with the power of personalized networking? Any of those answers, you're gonna love this episode. We're talking with Megan Ray, who is part of the PBR in our continuation of our series with COWGIRL Magazine's 30 Under 30. And in this podcast, we go beyond the saddle as we explore professional careers across the equine industry. I'm your host, Katie Kleinbell. Let's tack up and head out. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Saddle as part of our COWGIRL Magazine 30 Under 30 series. We are going to talk with Megan Ray today from the PBR. She has a really fun job, and I cannot wait to hear your story. Megan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been listening to all the episodes, so I'm really excited to come on and be a part of the 30 Under 30 kind of collaboration on your podcast. It's been so wonderful to hear everybody's stories.
It has been so fun to get to know these amazing women that are part of this group. We are among some really, really audacious, ambitious, confident, fabulous women, and I feel a little proud. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, 100%. It's so cool to be amongst so many wonderful ladies who are making such a big difference in the industry and all different facets of the industry. So I think you're doing a great job of highlighting everybody and being able to tell these stories. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so much fun. Well, you are among them and you have earned that spot and then some. Let's talk about you. What is your job?
Yeah, so I work for the PBR, and I always preface it's the Professional Bull Riders. I know we're on the Equine Network kind of thing, but a lot of people, when I say PBR, automatically go, oh, the beer. So I always say Professional Bull Riders, and I am their social media coordinator. I have been working at the PBR coming up on 3 years. And what I do in my job is a little bit different every day, but the main core is content creation, storytelling, and getting people excited about PBR through social media.
So much visibility and a little bit of pressure, I would imagine, to have such a large brand to steward on the social sphere every day. How do you handle that?
It is. I mean, the pressure of it is there. Millions of people on each platform. It's a lot, but it's really fun to be able to create engaging conversations with people who are hardcore fans and then reaching a new audience of people who don't even know what rodeo, what bull riding, what anything in the Western industry is. So it's fun to kind of create these storylines of whether it's a rider's personality, a bull's personality, the stock contractors that take care of the bulls, our crew that puts on the shows, showcase all the different elements of it, and of course the competition to all these different people and really have them enticed into what is the PBR doing and the lifestyle and just overall the Western industry. And so for my job, I really have fun with being able to create different content on the different platforms to really speak to different people.
And so many fun stories to tell. Like, I love that you started with that there is so many, different ways to slice all of the pieces and parts that make this thing come to life, from the stock contractors to the bulls themselves, to the competitors, to the fans. Like, everybody's sort of coming at it from a different world, and you get to help tell those stories. How fun is that?
Oh, it's so fun. It's definitely different where I think when people think of bull riding, they just think of like the 8 seconds on the bull, but there's so much to it. And there's the riders, and these guys work their entire lives to make a living bull riding, and they put their heart and souls into it, and their families are behind them. So being able to create, we call them personalities on social. So showcasing their fun side, their goofy side, their hardcore into the sport side is something that I really take pride in. And when you're around them all the time, where I travel about twice a month to the events and actually get to be on site and around everybody, you get to learn them and learn like what are their little quirks or what are their little stories, and to be able to translate that to social media allows people to connect with them more. And then, who doesn't love the bulls? They're basically big puppy dogs. And so it's fun to kind of showcase them in different ways and talk about animal welfare and how much people really care for them, the stock contractors, the riders, our crew, and how much they put into making sure the bulls are performing at their best. They perform for 8 seconds and then they're back eating, happy on the trailers, going on to the next show out in big pastures. And so it's fun to kind of create the social media trends where you see like day in the life of a dog or a person, and we took it and made it like day in the life of one of our top bulls and showed what's it like going through world finals and everything, and people were able to see the behind the scenes like that. And so for me, that's the best part of the job, is the storylines of it all and being able to showcase how amazing the people are that I get to work with and witness how great they are at the sport. And so it's a lot of fun to kind of create those different pieces of content and see people consume them.
Yeah, I love that you call them big puppy dogs because I have
Yes.
seen your behind the scenes when you're like in there scratching on their faces and like you have like a connection with them that I think the rest of the public sees like, oh my gosh, like, they go out there and they look so mean and brutal and whatever, but like they know their job and that's what they're bred to do. And then they're back there with you in the shoots and you're loving on them.
Oh, 100%. The bulls each have their own personalities, and some people think you're crazy when you say that, but I really do think they're like dogs. I mean, we have Top Dollar, who loves to be scratched on all the time. Cool Whip, if you see him and you walk past him, he will literally come up on the side of the pen and he wants scratches for an hour. There's some that don't want to be touched as much, or it's after the fact, or if you're giving them some food, they want some scratches, but it's really fun to kind of see their personalities and build it up. And the stock contractors are just so involved with them and care so much about them that for me, it's fun to kind of show like, oh, they've raised this thing since it was little and look, it's performing at the big leagues, and to be able to kind of showcase the bull in a different light than just those 8 seconds out there where they do look scary and mean and it can come off like that. Like there's a whole different side to the bulls.
Well, and you have a soft spot for them because you get the
Yes.
opportunity to know them, you can tell. But also, I mean, you were a horse person, you are a horse person. So, like, that's, again, there's not that much difference, right? Between 1,200-pound animal to 2,000-pound animal. Like, livestock is livestock, and you know how to sort of work that. Like, to me, it doesn't surprise me one iota that they've got that personality because we see it in our horses.
Oh, 100%. I think that's something for me I really wanted with my job. I showed horses for 10 years and I still have horses to this day and ride for fun and everything. And I really wanted to work in the Western industry and more the sports side of it, because as much as I love the people, I love our bull riders. They're amazing. I do love the bulls. They are like my emotional support when we're on tour, to get those scratches and kind of have that animal connection and have that fun with them. And so it does kind of lead back to my horse pass and everything like that. And it was one way for me to be able to kind of step into PBR, because it is different than like the PRCA and horse shows and stuff like that. But like having the connection of how animals work kind of helped with the job.
Sure. Oh my gosh, I imagine you had such a leg up just because you were so comfortable in that space. I'm glad you
Oh, yeah.
mentioned like the travel and being on tour. Like talk to me about how often are you on the road? Like where are you doing this from, right? Or like are you sitting at home? Do you work remote? Are you traveling every time and like you're just getting as much content as you can out there? Like how does that fill into like the whole picture of what your
Yes.
job looks like?
Yeah, so on my social team, there's me and one other girl who are our social media coordinators. And so we'll trade off traveling. So I travel about twice a month, and our shows are all over the United States. So we're going to like Florida, we have Missouri, Texas, all the states we're hitting. And so I travel about twice a month. And then, opposite of that, I do work remotely. I'm very lucky to work remotely. And it's the job is a little different. When you work in social media, there's no like 9 to 5 or clock in, clock out. Social media is ever going. So you kind of have to be ever going. We'll have stuff that will pop up super late at night or super early in the morning. And I think that's the fun part of the job for me, is I never wanted my days to look the exact same. I call it the chaos of it all, but I really do thrive in those situations where every day looks different. You're working on different things, you're working with different people, and the schedule's ever changing. We have events every weekend. So generally, I'm either on site or at home, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, working those nights for the event. We do a lot of live programming during those times. So you kind of have to be on. But the job is kind of 24/7, but I think I really enjoy it. So it's kind of like intertwined with my life. And so the traveling has just kind of added that little element of extra fun to see so many different places and get to experience things that I never would if I didn't work for the PBR.
Ooh, I love that you said that intertwined with your life piece because I think there's this misconception about what work-life balance is. And I think in the Western space, especially when you're running something like social media that is so around the clock, when you love it and it is who you are and what you do and it braids together with your complete lifestyle, that's where you find balance and like filling your cup and it feels like the right place to be, not like, okay, I do 8 hours here and I have 8 hours of my personal time. And like sometimes it's not, it can't be as clear cut as that, right?
Yes, 100%. I think you bring up a beautiful point of everybody's work-life balance is different. And that's something I had to learn getting into my career because you'll have people tell you like, oh, well, you need to clock out at a hard hour and really like turn your phone off, don't consume social media. Like you need to figure out how to separate your life. And I've never really been that type of person. In college, I worked two part-time jobs to put myself through college. And so always keeping myself busy while also riding horses and doing all the fun things. And so for me, I like the more high energy, always doing something, always intertwined with work. And that really like fuels my soul and gives me purpose. And so I think it's okay for people to have their work intertwined, especially in the Western industry, because at the end of the day, the Western industry is a lifestyle. And yes, we do have professional sports and uh, a whole bunch of different shows and stuff like that in the fashion, but it's at its core, it's a lifestyle. And I grew up loving everything that was a part of it. And so for me, it's just easy to have a job that fits the lifestyle, fits what I want out of life and how I want to work. And so I think it's really important for people to keep that in mind when they're finding their jobs, whether it's in the Western industry or not. Like, what does work life balance work for you? And that's all that really matters.
It's sort of a journey too, or at least that's how it's been for me is like discovering what is that, right? Because your role
100%.
might require something different of you, right? And it's like not something that there's like a mapped out written down plan or formula of like here's Katie and Megan's advice for how to find
Yes.
work-life balance, right? Like it's different for everyone and it may be different for you job to job too as you sort of
Yes.
figure that out.
No, 100%. And I think it's really important to, I always think like it's my path and like what do I want out of my work, my life, everything like that. And as long as like at the end of the day, you're happy and feel complete with that, like I think you're doing all the things right. And yes, it's cool to hear how other people do it, but it's not necessarily going to work for you. So it's a lot of trial and error. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to kind of do what's best for you in those situations.
And you can only make the decision based on the information you have now. So don't
Yes.
ever feel like you're going to know because you're never going to know. We're always sort
Oh,
of guessing.
oh, never. I honestly did not think I was going to work in the Western industry when I was in high school. I honestly thought I was going to go into like engineering and that was my path. And I went to college over in Seattle for a year where I wasn't with horses or in the industry. I felt very separated from it and it just didn't feel right for me. So I came back and dove headfirst into working for the Ellensburg Rodeo and kind of found my way back into the industry. And for most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, wow, you had this whole kind of like different path you were going down. And yeah, sometimes it feels like, oh, well, I kind of failed at that, but I really found what fuels my fire, really fuels my soul, and something that I'm passionate about. And it's crazy to look back and be like, if I didn't come back to the Western industry, I wouldn't have found social media. I wouldn't have been able to work for the PBR and really live out my dream that I discovered kind of later on. Like I was always a part of the Western industry, but they kind of tell you like, oh, like you got to get out of your small town, you got to do these things. But I think it's really, you have to put into perspective what you want out of it.
For sure. And I know you get asked this question all the time because when you work for something as cool as the PBR, I'm sure everybody is sitting here listening to our conversation going, okay, but how did she get to the PBR? So paint the picture for us because it has to be like one of those things that you knew what you wanted, you went after it, and sort of right place, right time. Like, tell us how it happened.
Yes, so it was a little bit of like I knew I wanted to go into the Western industry. I had worked for the Ellensburg Rodeo and built up their socials and knew that was kind of the path I wanted to go down. And so I started interning for the Cowboy Channel when they had the NFR down in Texas and then when they had the American down there. And so I knew that was the path I wanted to go down. And when I was graduating college, I saw that the PBR had posted that they were looking for a social media coordinator. And at the time, my boss at my radio station I was working at was like, well, like try out. We'll see. It probably won't happen, but like I have your back and everything. And so I kind of just went for it. And I feel like a lot of people think you have to know certain people to get a job offer or an opportunity. And I honestly missed the deadline for applying for PBR, the open application. So I messaged the hiring manager and I pitched myself right then and there of my background, my passion, why you should hire me. And then she asked for an interview and we went through the whole interview process. So I think people want to think that you have to know someone or you have to kind of network your way into it. But I also think you need to have like the hard work and the background and the confidence in yourself to really aim for those jobs and go for it and believe that your skill set that you have curated over the years is something that they're going to find value in and apply yourself for the job. And for me, networking too, I think people have kind of this conception of like, you need to tell everybody how great you are and what you can do for them. And I found like, even after the fact of getting that job, a lot of people like to hear themselves talk in a sense of they want to tell their story, they want to tell you their issues. And then you can come in and connect with them on little personal anecdotes and help them find solutions. And then that's really how you build these connections that then open doors for you later on. And I mentioned my boss at the time, like having my back and, wanting to set me up of like, like this is a big goal, but like, let's go for it and everything is I had made those connections with him where he felt like he could help me in those situations. And it might have not been in the Western industry, but networking across the board is kind of how you get help and how you get assistance and how you get your foot really in the door.
There are so many good things to dissect out of that story right there and like so much tangible advice. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's just start with let's start with not having to know the right person, right? Because we sort of like full circled back to that like you did know the right person because you had the confidence that your current boss was giving you and saying, I've got your back. Go for this, right? But you didn't know anybody on the other end of that equation, but you had sort of that backing behind you. And that's huge. And I think we take that for granted, not knowing where we need to go or the right door to open or like the right person to talk to. Cause everybody says, the Western industry, the equine industry, whatever is so small. And it is, right? Like you will know people that will know people and et cetera, et cetera. But you don't have to know someone. You just got to believe in yourself. And Megan did it.
100%. I think the one thing about our industry is it is small and very tight knit. And that's what makes it wonderful because so many people care so deeply for the industry and want to see it do well. But I think it kind of hinders people that might not be a part of the industry fully or feel like have both feet in the doors. They might just have like a toe over the doorway. They feel like they can't kind of get into it. And for me, like I grew up riding horses. I worked for a rodeo. I interned at the Cowboy Channel. Like I did these things where I felt qualified, but I still didn't feel like I had that person on the other side to kind of give me an opportunity. So I was like, who do I have beside me that can help lift me up for that opportunity and give me the tools that I need? So I remember sitting in his office for 2 days, like writing my resume, getting everything together, why I missed the deadline and everything like that. And him just being super supportive of rereading it, having other people give input, practicing questions and everything like that. And I think that's the most important thing is you might not have someone on the other side that you want to get to, but you need to look beside you and see who do you have that will help build that bridge for you to get there.
What a wonderful influence he had on you. Oh my gosh.
100%.
The other thing I want to touch on too is you missed the deadline and reached out anyway. And I just went through a hiring process for someone on my team and it's daunting, right? Like hiring managers, I feel your pain because it is intense to get so many applications and so many amazing people that you want to get to know personally and you want to do the right thing and you want to go through the whole interview process and you're trying to hold to a deadline. It is really impressive to me that you missed the deadline and reached out anyway, because that level of confidence speaks volumes. And not to say, I don't want to plant the seed in our listeners here that if you miss a deadline, you're for sure going to get a chance, because you might not, but you're definitely not going to get the chance if you don't try. The fact that you tried made all the difference in the world and it got you in the door.
Oh, yes. I think you should always aim for your deadlines. And like, I felt so defeated when I saw that it closed on LinkedIn and everything. But for me, it was kind of that moment of like the opportunity went away where I was like, wow, I really want that. I feel like this really is my calling and this is something I'm really passionate about. I'm going to go for it. And I wrote my little pitch of here's who I am, here's my experience, but here's why I love the PBR and what I want to do for the PBR. Would love to talk to you about it. And it was kind of nerve wracking to send that and then to sit there and wait for a response and hope for a response. And honestly, I didn't think I would get one because the PBR is such a big brand and I'm sure they got so many applications. But I guess it was something in the pitch that sparked the hiring manager, and she ended up being my boss at the time. And I'm just so thankful she took the chance to, one, open my message and read it, and then to give me a chance to interview with her so she could see the person behind the pitch and everything like that. So I think deadlines are really important, like apply for jobs on time. But if you feel like something is meant to be and it's calling you and you feel like you missed it, like something is going to happen for you that's meant for you.
Oh, totally. Well, and what's the phrase? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So take the shot.
100%. And it's really hard to apply for jobs, especially like coming out of college. Like you feel very intimidated because you see these applications are like 3 to 4 years of experience. You have to have all these skills. Oh, you need to know all of these platforms, all of this stuff. And you're like, I know what I'm doing on a basic level. I know I'm green, but like, give me a chance and I'm a fast learner. I will dedicate myself. And I feel like a lot of people don't take that opportunity. And I think it's also important, like, if you don't fit the job 100%, maybe you fit it 95%, still go for it. Your skills and your passion and your willingness to be a part of something bigger than you will always outshow if you're missing one soft skill or maybe you don't have all 4 years of experience. I think it's really important for people to really go for what they want and what they feel will drive them.
Megan, you are wise beyond your years. That is so true. Well, just knowing that like you can already see through a job description, basically, right? Like a job description is sort of like a wish list, like, and you never know, right? As the person who has written those job descriptions, and I'm thinking like, okay, I know I need this piece and it would be nice to have this piece. And like, here's sort of my dream candidate. But especially when it's like a new role or an expanding role or something like that, your hiring manager is just doing their best to get something on a piece of paper to guide to the right person. And if you're not a perfect like cookie cutter match for everything that's on that sheet of paper, that's okay, because chances are the person who put the things on that sheet of paper you're looking at also didn't know and was just sort of like getting you in that right direction. And then when you get the right person in there, you mold the job and the responsibilities around that to like let them shine and run in the direction the organization needs. But you don't know that when you're just like reading it, like, okay, I check this box. Oh, I don't check that box. Oh, I check this box. It's hard.
It is. And I feel like for people, especially wanting to be a part of the Western industry, if you don't have like those years of background, or maybe you're just getting your foot in the door, it's even more intimidating for them. I know from being kind of on the other side of interviewing people that might be working for PBR and stuff like that. We're looking for people who really care and have the skills that they need to, but you might not hit every little box and you're just wanting to be more a part of something bigger than you. And so I think people really just need to keep that in mind of, what do you bring to the table if you don't check that one box? What's that extra thing you have? And really showcase that when you're interviewing and really be confident in yourself and your abilities and what you want to do with your life.
Totally. Okay, there's one more piece that I want to dissect from your awesome advice here, and that is your perspective on networking, which I positively love. And I will say, Megan does not just talk the talk on this, she walks the walk on this in getting those personal touches and, asking people about themselves as a way of networking. We got on this call and started this podcast, and she immediately asked me about myself. And this podcast is about her. And she came in here and she just made it personal and brought that personal touch. So you walk the walk, girl. You live this.
Yes, I think networking is a term that people throw at you when you're first starting to find a job or just be a part of an industry in some setting. And people don't really explain what networking is. Like I always thought it was, oh, you need to go walk up to the person who has the biggest name in the room, the biggest title, shake their hand and tell them every wonderful thing about yourself and come off as the best person ever. So maybe in the back of their mind, they'll store you away and use you later for an opportunity. And what I found working in different industries of rodeo, radio, being in college is if you take the time more to ask people about themselves first and have them open up, and people naturally like to talk about themselves. I think you've known that with having a podcast and bringing people on is they like to share their stories. They like to share little insights about them. And if you can grasp onto that and create a connection organically, they're going to remember you much easier and have a more deeper connection with you and be able to think of you when those opportunities do come up than someone who has a really big title and is a really big name in the industry. And I use that every day with the bull riders that I work with. I really approached with making sure I was getting to know them on a deeper level and understanding their little quirks and their stories. And now they trust me to tell those stories. So I think you can take wanting to get to know people and finding little connections there and really diving into who they are as your networking tool across different, whether it's for a job in your everyday life or like in your job. You kind of need to be able to make those connections a little deeper, and it helps you a long way.
It is so true. And one of my mentors told me this one time, and I had never thought of it in this way, but like exactly what you're talking about resonates so much with this. And that's people don't really remember who you are or what you said or even what you do, but they remember how you make them feel. Like that's how you'll be remembered. And if you make people feel valued and seen and you're interested in them and like who they are as people and not for their title or for whatever connections they might be able to make for you, like if that's how you're approaching networking, that's a different feeling that you're going to leave in that impression than the feeling of like, who are you as a person? I'm a person too. Let's be people together and make it a positive
100%.
exchange.
I know, like I feel when you're trying to be a part of the industry, for me, it was the people who got to know me on a deeper level and were asking me questions and wanting to know who I was as a person outside of the job that I really felt like, wow, they really want to connect. They really want to network. They really want to know me. And it just is something that kind of molds past being looking for an opportunity. You're looking to make a connection. And I think that's the most important thing you can do in the industry.
Absolutely. And remember that, those people that you do really want an opportunity to shake their hands and they are really somebody and you look up to them, etc. They're also just people, at the end of the day, just a dude or just a gal doing their thing.
100%. For me, it was when I got the job, I was a big PBR fan. And so I'll use Cooper Davis as an example. When I met Cooper Davis, I was like, oh my God, he's a world champion. He's so cool, all this stuff. And now I just have casual conversations with him and I get to work with him all the time. And he's on our broadcast team right now. And it's just, you'll get to those moments where you get to shake hands with the people who have the big titles, the big names and everything like that, but they're still just people. And as long as you connect with them on a certain level like that, like it becomes easier to move around in the industry and make those connections and really kind of enjoy it. I feel like that's the whole point of the Western industry is, yes, we have different work and stuff like that in it, but it's still a lifestyle and it's still a part of you. And so if you can enjoy meeting people and really connecting with people, I think it just makes it that much better.
Oh, and so much more fun that way. You hit the nail on the head. Like if you take that pressure off of yourself, you are going to enjoy what you are doing and the opportunities you have to do your work so much more. It becomes way more fun at that point.
Yes, it does.
Which is why I'm so excited for Fort Worth to be with our Cowgirl 30 Under 30 crew, because there's like just all this, optically pressure to like go and like be these cool people. But really, we're just like a room full of like fun humans in the Western industry who are going to get together, celebrate what we've done, and just like get to know each other. And Megan, I can't wait to like meet you in person and see you there.
I know it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited to meet you and to meet everybody and be able to, put my words on paper and connect with everybody on a deeper level. Reading about everybody and, connecting with them on social media has been great. And to be able to be in a room with people who will be such, legends of our industry one day and they're doing such amazing things now is just a moment that like would make little Megan just so proud. And so like I'm so excited to go to Fort Worth and meet everybody. And I mean, how wonderful for Cowgirl magazine to provide this experience. It's just insane.
Aw, little Megan is already very proud of you before we ever get in that room.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Megan. This has been a delightful conversation, chock full of fantastic advice. So much so that I'm going to go back and listen to this and write some things down. So, everybody out there listening, go follow Megan, go follow the PBR, watch her great, amazing work on social media and what she's doing for the organization and for the Western industry as a whole, because PBR is such an influential piece of like the visible eye of our industry in the entertainment sector. You won't regret just like having fun with it. And Megan, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing all of this, your journey with us and your wonderful advice.
Thank you so much, Katie. It was so much fun to talk with you.
Thanks for riding along in this episode with Megan Ray as part of our series with Cowgirl Magazine's 30 Under 30. Stay tuned for more episodes with this group of honorees.